responsible for any attack.
Struck first. Derek Smith. The officials for tonight's game, the referee is Andy Van Helleman, the backup Dave Newell, the linesman Gord Brossiker and Ray Scapanello. The off-ice officials are from Boston. If you were to rank the goaltenders with the best to the lowest in averages, this man would be first in the regular season. Patrick Roy, who was 2.47. 37th would be Ken Regan at a 4.51. Doesn't mean a thing now, does it? Look at that, a 1.44. Gainey, Corson, and Keane to start for Montreal. Green and Robinson, the defense, as again Pat Burns has broken up a defense combination and starts his third pair at the beginning of the game. Tocchet moving in along with Secord and Sutter. It is dealt back along and Tocchet locks up. Centering pass, and it is cut off by Bob Gainey. And Gainey floated one back out as the Flyers are sky high here at the start. Kartner and Chychrun the defense.
Mike, it's always easier to establish your big forechecking game at home. The fans give you that huge burst, and by the time the anthems are finished, all that adrenaline translates into forechecking. The Flyers were smart early to get it over and in, try and create that first-man pressure, because that's something they're going to have to do. Montreal, as they know, and as everybody knows, is a real tough team to play against. They're big, they're strong, and you got to use all your tools against them.
There is Rick Tocchet, who is playing hurt, and in the last game played 24 minutes. That's a lot of time for a guy on the wing in a 60-minute game.
And don't think that he isn't on the limp. Sure, your body, even if you're playing, tends to want to heal and tends to try to heal. But Rick Tocchet, even this afternoon, was doubtful for tonight. He is not wearing a knee brace. It is just a tape job. And the chorus of boos you hear are for this guy, Chris Chelios. Burns put him out, and then he pulled him back. Chelios is heading off the ice. But after the hit on Brian Propp in Game 1, Chris Chelios didn't seem to be rattled much in Game 2, did he? Played pretty well.
He is one of the guys they count on offensively, this Montreal team. And a candidate for the Norris Trophy for Best Defenseman as Keith Acton moves in, wearing that flak jacket, and he's tested out early that time by Rick Green. Along it is brought now by Mike McPhee. McPhee's pass went off Jay Wells, but it's taken by Eklund. A minute gone. Game 3. Series even at 1. Wells pass on the money to Kerr. Tries to shuttle away from the defense of Chelios, but can't. It is tapped back on to Claude Lemieux. Offside is called. Grudlin seemed to want to move in on Eklund, but the linesmen are in quickly, and Gord Brossiker is single-handedly handling a lot of this.
Boy, Pelly Eklund made a good play, Mike, when he was going back. The Flyers want to try to find a way to get the jump on Montreal. Let's face it, when the puck is dumped in, Montreal sets up. We've talked about their system. Here on the road, they will most likely go with one forechecker, a second one if they see that the opportunity is there to go and help. But most of the time, two men back, and then two defensemen backing those two forwards up. And in the neutral zone, they go into a kind of a 1-4 deal. They force most of their turnovers in the neutral zone. When Eklund was going back to get the puck, he did a reverse. He had a crisscross working. He banked it off the boards, and the Flyers had a quick 3-on-2. So we'll watch for the Flyers to try to turn the puck up ice early instead of letting Montreal get the jump on him and get set up.
It appears that every Chelios handle of the puck will be accompanied by boos. We may not need to identify him much tonight. Sinisalo denied and then got it back again from Chelios and backhanded one off Roy. It is Kartner moving in. Kartner dumps it around and Al Secord steps to it. Secord lays it back along for Sinisalo. Now Carbonneau given a shove to the boards by Mike Bullard. Secord comes by and the puck pressed to the boards and we get a halt to play.
You know, Paul Holmgren, up until game time, really didn't know what his lines were going to look like. He had all kinds of numbers sketched out on a pad. This is Sinisalo's scoring chance. Chelios forced him wide enough that you could see Roy ended up with a pretty good angle. But even to get that jump between Ludwig and Chelios is kind of a bonus, something that you don't expect. We'll have to see if it continues, because those types of breaks, those openings between the defense pairings from Montreal, you just don't see. We hardly saw any of those in Montreal.
Well, Dave Poulin will be out for the Flyers. He'll have Derek Smith on the left, and on the right it'll be Mellenby with Howe on the left point, Samuelson on the right. It's Samuelson firing one, and that went off skate. Poulin fell, and stepping away with it is Guy Carbonneau. Carbonneau sent it on by. Kjell Samuelson was busy checking Ryan Walter, and down it goes to Regic. On the turning stick of Samuelson. Hands crisply back to Howe. Mark Howe shovels one. Moving in to get it is Mellenby. Centered one, and Derek Smith got a piece of it. Poulin a shot. Oh, and that one saved by Roy. It is Svoboda. Rolls it back along to Carbonneau. Tries to turn it further, and the Flyers with this line, as has been the case in the prior two games, getting a lot of splendid forechecking. Poulin, Derek Smith, and Scott Mellenby. Svoboda has to hurry his pass. Knocked down by Poulin. Fed along to Mellenby. Check to the boards by Carbonneau. Mellenby trying to work it along, but Carbonneau has it wedged off. And then Poulin given a jolt down by Svoboda. Puck kicked along to Matt Naslund. Can't get it by Derek Smith. Pivoting is Dave Poulin. For Mellenby. Save Roy. The rebound flung away by Green. Here is Portnoy. Sidesteps the check of Poulin. Turns it on to Matt Naslund, who has to circle. Drops it off for Bobby Smith. Smith takes a look. It's chased back behind. Centered, but Samuelson turned it aside. Samuelson and Naslund cancel. Here's Keane moving in. Put it off the side of the goal. And hanging on is Ken Regic. 16:46 to go in the opening period of our game. No score.
Here's the Flyers' first big scoring chance. A cross-corner dump by Mark Howe. Scott Mellenby got to the puck first, and the rebound came right out to Dave Poulin. Guy Carbonneau thought he had it, but you saw that he just fanned on it. Patrick Waugh recovered pretty quickly once he knew that rebound was going out front.
Another Ron Sutter face-off win. Goes over to Kartner. Kartner and Chikrin the defense. It is Bullard on the left, Tocchet on the right for the Flyers. Will pick up the Canadiens as they go back to handle. Eric Desjardins and Larry Robinson on the defense. Puck chopped away, and then Tocchet's pass ricocheted off of Matt Naslund. He, Bobby Smith, and Keane are out together. Offside is called against the Flyers. It is a miracle this man is out there playing. We would have never guessed Brian Propp would have suited up by tonight after being corked so soundly to the glass in game number one.
And after waking up and thinking he was still in Pittsburgh. Boy, oh boy. Pretty good recovery by Brian Propp. He took fewer stitches than we would have guessed. There was a huge pool of blood on the ice when he cut his head, but it was a screw in his helmet, actually kind of a rivet-type screw. That's how hard the impact was, because the rivet was even behind a half-inch of protective foam that's in his helmet. It pushed right through it.
Ken Regic scoops this one up and gets a stoppage of play. Through all the hoopla, this is Regic's first playoff start in Philadelphia. All of his action on the road.
And you know the positive thing, Mike, from a Ken Regic standpoint, in his first playoff action as a Flyer, he hasn't just been a hot goalie. He has technically been one of the strongest goalies we have seen in the playoffs. He stays square to the shot. Even on the rebounds, he's able to move over. And Bernie Perron hasn't worked with him very much, but he really helped him in moving across the net from one side to the other. Instead of gliding across in one step and leaving a five-hole between his legs, he's worked with him to take a couple of steps across. And that way, he always keeps his legs together and never gives anything between them.
Puck dump back along for Gainey. Able to pull away from Chikrin. A shot is picked out by Regic. Followed up, though, by Robinson, and that shot went wide. Now it's poked along by Robinson, who crunches with Sutter. Corson flips. Riche couldn't shoot. Gainey won, and that one went wide. Robinson flips one that's knocked down by Rick Tocchet. Banks along, and Robinson couldn't get it from Sutter. Back up ice now comes Brian Propp. Propp with a wrist shot, and that's blocked away. Desjardins locks up with Brian Propp. Along the boards, the puck comes near Wells. He's checked, and the puck comes to Sutter in neutral ice. Along now for Murphy. Punched it back in, but Larry Robinson takes over, and Murphy collided with Gainey. Gainey's helmet popping off. Puck flipped by Lemieux.
Mike, that's the second time in one shift that Gainey lost his helmet. He's the only player I've ever seen stop and pick up his helmet. He not only did it the first time, the second time he picked it up, and instead of putting it on, he carried it off the ice.
There is a deflection off the forechecking of Acton that had to be gloved down. Ahead with this now comes Ludwig. Ludwig flips. That one skipped by Wells and down for the icing touch-up by Murphy. And then trying to run Murphy off was McPhee after the whistle. Temperature has gone up a few degrees down on that ice. 14:50 to go first, no score.
Well, these helmets don't stay on real well when they're not done up. Bob Gainey had his knocked off earlier in the shift. Whoops.
He does have a strap, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, but it was knocked off at the other end and came undone. He picked it up, put it on, but never did his helmet up. Here's the save by Ken Reagan. That was Gainey, in fact, that moved in on him. Robinson on that freeze frame ripped that shot wide. He was point blank in the slot, and he pulled it.
Howe with a shot that ricocheted off Strudland and is brought back up ice by Lemieux. Tried for Strudland, but that one skipped over to Reggett. Reggett flings one along that went off the glove of Lemieux. Pivoting with it is Mike Bullard. If you're just joining us, 14:30 to go in the first period of play. Flyers with 3 shots, the Canadiens with 1, and we'll have an icing called as Chelios goes back to touch it up.
But you would have to think, if you've watched these two teams play in the playoffs, Mike, that a lead is going to be important. I mean, in the first 2 games, the team that scored first won the game. Montreal is obviously hard to come back against. They were the top-rated defensive team during the regular season, but the Flyers have really been impressive defensively in the playoffs. And I think in the first 2 games, the games were basically won in the first half and saved in the second half. It's really going to be a key to open up a lead for both of these teams here.
You were mentioning the shifting in Reggett's positioning as directed by Bernie Perrant. That prompts a question. Maybe we can get in once play stops again. Here's Chelios moving along, and Sutter bangs him to the board. Chris Chelios locked up again by Sutter. The battle on, and Carbonneau forced it deeper. Now it's jammed around by Poulin, and stepping to it is Shell Samuelson. Samuelson's pass is on to Mellanby, and Mellanby gives it to Mark Howe. Then up the wing it comes to Mellanby. Cannon drive, and that turned away by Roy. Hop back out to Poulin. Poulin tried to flip to the slot. Derek Smith finesses to Mellanby. To Smith. Oh, and a shot is saved by Roy, who has had some difficult ones to deal with here in the first period. Derek Smith comes back in. Roy scoops it around. Poulin hit hard to the boards by Ryan Walter. Stepping to it is Smith, the hand back to Jeff Chikrin. Pass went beyond the reach of Mellanby and down, and Chelios back to touch it up. Icing is called. Patrick Roy has been strong in the Canadiens' net so far, and you see him going for his customary skate when play is not down near his end, and there's a face-off at the other end.
Well, the Flyers in the first 2 games, or I should say in the second game, weren't happy with how they pursued loose pucks. But so far, the line of Poulin, Mellanby, and Derek Smith have really made it happen because they have won the races to the loose pucks. Nice feed from Smith into Mellanby, a give and go right back to him. But you saw that it was bouncing, and that really took away a lot of Derek Smith's oomph on the shot. See how it's spinning round and round, but Patrick Roy was down again.
Mark Howe pivots for the Flyers, drops it back to Samuelson. Those are the 2 leading plus-minus players in the league. Howe at a +15 and Samuelson at a +12. Dave Poulin has just kicked the puck out of play. We get a stoppage midway in the first. We're scoreless in the Spectrum. Poulin on the face-off with Bobby Smith. Keane and Smith, that's Derek Smith, crept in very close on that, but it is Samuelson making the Canadiens go back and play it again. Shots are 5 for the Flyers, just 1 for Montreal. Dave Poulin crunches the board to Smith, and a rising shot went off the glass. Samuelson drops it along to Mellanby. What a line this has been for the Flyers here in just 3 or 4 shifts for the first period. The battle continues, and Poulin trying to step away. Gets away from Svoboda. Jabbed it back around to Samuelson. Drove it around the boards to Poulin. Tried to center, but couldn't because of the checking of Svoboda. Mellanby comes in and takes it. Trying to dance away from Bobby Smith. Knocked down by Smith, and the fans protest. It is Smith able to bring it back out. Headman's a pass to Green and up the wing to Keane. Keane fakes side up by Howe. Couldn't finesse his way through. Mark Howe cancels Keane, who hit Poulin. Samuelson connects with Derek Smith. And Smith just taps one back in deep.
Boy, this line has the right idea. Even on the shot selection, Derek Smith had that one flat on this last shift and shot it up high. That line is going to get one on Patrick Roy tonight if they continue to shoot it high on him.
Moving in this time for the Canadiens is Naslund. Lost it back to Chikrin, who cleared back out, and on comes Rick Tocchet. Tocchet feathers it along to Brian Propp. Tried to get it to Sutter. Sutter checked off by Naslund and taken to the board. Centering pass is trapped and held by Patrick Roy. Why do you focus on shooting high on Roy?
He's had a tendency to go down. In a couple of replays even tonight, we saw him go down first. Now, in game one, he committed early, and it cost him a couple of goals. He was a little more hesitant to go down early in game two, and I thought he was a lot more stable. Ron Sutter picked this pass up off his pads. Matt Naslund is an underrated defensive guy. You saw little number 26 from Montreal take Ron Sutter and take him all the way into the corner. Reverse angle look at it. Rick Tocchet, pretty good read. You saw that Ron Sutter was wedged out of the play. And against Montreal, it's one thing to get first-man pressure, but the second guy has to be there too.
Partner with a good shot, cleared away by Robinson after Roy made the save. Chychrun a shot, and that went high off the stick of Robinson and flipped off Robinson wide. It is Tocchet trying to get to it and taken down. There'll be a penalty coming up to Eric Desjardins. The first power play of the game belongs to Philadelphia. 11:41 to go in the first period. We have no score.
Power play first here in game three. Tocchet is dragged down right there by Eric Desjardins from Montreal. Sutter was also pulled down by Larry Robinson there on the left. Montreal doesn't give you many chances. The Flyers just have to make them work.
They are 0 for 9 in this series. The only two games they've come up empty on the power play in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. It is Murphy working with Howe in back. Eklund along with Propp and Sutter. Or check that, along with Kerr and Propp. And it is Murphy back across now to Mark Howe. Howe with a wrist pass to Eklund. Pivots away, looks for Kerr, gives to the back to Murphy. Murphy draws a man, angles one for Propp that skips away. Ludwig right on him. It's hurried right back to Mark Howe. Howe yanks the pass behind his back to Propp. Eklund drifts to the front. Kerr is watching. Eklund for Kerr, and he was just shoved off. Now Howe with a shot, and that deflected back out. Tim Kerr shook loose, but only for split seconds as the Canadiens were showing strength back on defense. And it is Ludwig sending one that is stopped by Karkner and left for a moment. Karkner clicks with a pass on to Pelle Eklund. 55 seconds to go in the power play as Eklund is able to worm one across the curve. Boom to the boards and glass by McPhee. The puck taken by Murphy. Shot, and it went wide. Doing the splits on that was Roy. Karkner turns it along for Tocchet. His shot! Oh, and that glove by Roy. And now we have a wrestling match after as it is Tocchet and Mike McPhee.
I think that was Chris Chelios that Tocchet started to paw at first, but boy, big Mike McPhee put a headlock on Tocchet. And it wasn't a bad decision by McPhee to continue to hang on because Tocchet, by that point, had a burr under his saddle. But Rick Tocchet has to be careful, Mike. He is, you know, when you get into a fight, all people think about, I guess, are broken hands and maybe a broken face, a broken nose, cuts on your face. You'd be surprised how many guys hurt their legs, their ankles, or their knees in fights, and Rick Tocchet is not stable. Good play by Tocchet, though, picking the puck off the boards and cutting immediately into that seam between the high guy and the low guy on that side of the box and getting a high shot.
Boy, that shows just what you're saying. Look at all of, if you just watch the legs and not the arms and shoulders.
See where they're down there now. If Rick Tocchet happens to twist his knee, he is gone. He might think about staying out of those situations.
Minors to each for roughing at the 9:41 mark in the period. 10:19 to go. Still the Canadiens with just one shot and the Flyers with 8.
Of course, the Gladiators don't go and hide in the corners when the gate comes up and the Lion trots in.
No, that is true. Stanley Cup playoffs have been very absent of fisticuffs this year. The Canadiens have not even been involved in a fight since the Hartford series. Almost a month ago. Howe, Murphy. Howe, Propp. Howe, tipped by Kerr. Couldn't get the shot away. And Patrick Roy able to cover up.
Well, this is something else that the Flyers want to try and do tonight. They have to get some point shots in at Patrick Roy. One of the ways they were going to try and do it was just the way they did there. A one-time shot. That means the pass from Propp just laid back right here so that Mark Howe can let it rip. The Montreal forwards that kill penalties really force up high. And what happens behind them very often is that guys like Chelios and Ludwig, number 17, will also move up on the play. So there's room in behind their entire box. They shift up as a foursome. And in that sense, the Flyers want to try and get it in deep behind them. Sometimes that means not shooting it on goal, but shooting it beside the net.
Murphy's shot went off the leg of Ludwig. And it is controlled and then lost by the Canadiens. Worked around to Prop. Gets it back to Howe. Howe spins over to Murphy. Murphy for Prop. Then across it came to Mike Bullard. Down to the last 7 seconds of the power play. Bullard fakes. Hands over for Howe. And Howe still controlling. Then to Murphy. Murphy swings one to Bullard. Penalty time is up. Tried for Kerr, and there were Canadians all around him. They had 3 men on Tim Kerr.
And that's been the story of the first 2 games. I talked to Tim Kerr before the game. I said, just how little room have you had? And he said, well, you said it. There hasn't been much out there at all in the power play.
Murphy's shot blocked away. Barreling in that time after Chelios was Trump, and he threw one to the front that's blocked off by Roy and lifted back out.
Well, the Flyers had the right idea on the attack zone time, Mike, on that power play. They spent a minute and a half possession time in Montreal's zone, but they only got 1 shot.
Corson a shot, but it was blocked off from behind. Here is Scott Mellanby starting it back up to Poulin. Across for Mellanby, and that tipped away. Mellanby drives it behind. Around it comes for Poulin. Dumps it off for Mellanby, and he couldn't get to the front. What a bulldog line this one has been. Maybe that's not properly named. Maybe pile driver is best, the way Mellanby and Derek Smith bang around. Here's Mellanby to Smith, and he couldn't get a good shot away. It is Svoboda out there dueling with Smith, and they've had some confrontations already. Svoboda rolls it around. Karkner is pinching with Richer. Now Smith stepped into, and Richer is able to pull away. Stepan Richer jabbed off the puck by Dave Poulin. That ricocheted off Derek Smith, but he reflexed it back out, and on comes Desjardins. Given a hit by Smith, and the Canadiens, you can see, pulling away from those jets. Mellanby lofts it back down, and Larry Robinson goes back to get it. Robinson drops it back off. Around it comes to be taken by Matt Naslund with 7:45 left in the first period of a scoreless game. Desjardins ahead. Can't get it in. Pivoting with it is Keith Acton. Taken over by Naslund to Bobby Smith. Soft pass gathered in by Samuelson and handed to Howe. Mark Howe up the wing now to Eklund. Eklund with a pass. It is tipped away by Acton. Tim Kerr giving a solid hit in the corner. And taking the puck from him is Naslund. Given up to Eklund, but followed through for the Canadiens and brought on by Bobby Smith. Smith wants to go by Howe. Can't get by. Then in barrel Keane and Samuelson. Good hard hitting in this game. It is Eklund feathering a pass that's skated down by Howe in a 3-on-1 with Acton and Kerr. It's Kerr in front. Save Roy! And covering up is Ludwig. 6 minutes and 58 seconds to go in what has been a scintillating first period. No score.
Well, you won't see many of these against the Montreal Canadiens. A 3-on-1. The problem with this is that the puck bounced up on end and is still rolling right there as Tim Kerr took that shot. He had to take that long cross-ice pass and try and tee it up, but watch it all the way across. I don't know if we'll see it here. Yeah, you can see the puck is bouncing along. Keith Acton drove for the net and threw a couple of back checkers. Tim Kerr just couldn't get it home. It was bouncing the whole way.
Murphy taken down, and the puck comes over to Jay Wells. You know, just stopping to think about ice condition with there being no more pro basketball here this year. The ice will be kept without a floor on it most of the time, except for an occasional wrestling match. And that will benefit both teams because not only are they able to practice here and get used to it, but also the game condition will just simply be better. The more you change the ice consistency around by having a floor on it, why, the poorer that it tends to be in the long run. Here is Jay Wells, handing back over to Murphy. Crisp pass on to Brian Propp. Has to pull away from Lemieux checking. And then it is tipped back in, and a bouncer by Tocchet, scooped up by Roy. And with Tocchet nearby, the whistle is blown.
Well, with Brian Propp back in the lineup, Paul Holmgren is able to put his regular lines back together. Pat Burns, not one lineup change tonight for him. Claude Lemieux missed game 1, but he's back here. He played game 2 in Montreal. I think that's still Mike McPhee and Rick Tocchet jawing back and forth at one another.
Flyers have said they're going to make Tocchet, or rather check that Chelios think about things, because he's got the feeling that a payback may come. Flyers said in the newspapers in Montreal it might not even be this series, it might be next year.
Well, it simply cannot come at the expense of a win or at the expense of a hockey game. That is something that Paul Holmgren, as young as he is, and as feisty as he was when he played, really maintained a cool head. When Brian Propp went down in game 1, he called his guys over and said, listen, there'll be lots of time. We got to win a hockey game, and that's still a fact.
Mellanby centering pass, and Poulin couldn't collect. Courtnall lays it back out for Guy Carbonneau. Watched by Jeff Chikrin. Run off by Karkner. And stepping to this one is Courtnall. Behind the net to get it is Carbonneau. Centered in front, and a shot was tipped by Chikrin after it had been let go toward a virtually empty net by Ryan Walter. Reggett was just getting back when Walter tried to let the shot go. Now it is Mellanby. Left it behind, and it's tapped free by Walter, and here comes Carbonneau. Hooked by Chikrin, backhander, he scores! Guy Carbonneau has opened the scoring in the game in this first period.
And after the brilliant work in the other end, forechecking, Scott Mellanby turns this one over just outside his blue line. How many times do we talk about the key areas? 8 to 10 feet inside and outside of your blue line and the other blue line. Scott Mellanby tried to make a move, and Mike, I don't know, the ice should be good here, but the puck has been bouncing a lot in the first period. Guy Carbonneau takes that one, moves in, scored on the backhand with a nice low shot. Those are hard to read, especially when he actually wound up and kind of took a half slap at it. So a guy that Montreal needs to contribute offensively, that hasn't contributed that much in the playoffs, Guy Carbonneau, has scored a big first goal here, and the Canadiens lead 1-0.
Ryan Walter gets the only assist at 14:26. Puck thrown out of play, and so we'll get a halt to the proceedings here with 5:17 to go in the opening period.
We have mentioned that the Montreal Canadiens play a very patient game. Well, the Flyers have been taking it to them. Montreal has not been that patient in this first period. They've given up a 3-on-1. They've given up great scoring opportunities. Patrick Waugh has held them in, and look what they got. That was their second shot on goal. The Flyers have limited them to only 2, and they lead 1-0. And that is the story of the Montreal Canadiens. You can outplay them. You can outduel them. They're patient. They get their break sooner or later. When their goaltending holds, somehow they end up ahead.
You know, the interesting thing, it's gone at least 10 minutes or so without a shot, as Bullard with a shot that hit the outside of the goal. Puck picked up now by Desjardins. And it's Eric Desjardins wheeling back out for the Canadiens. This is right now a 4-on-3, but it's broken down by Samuelson and controlled by Corson. Shane Corson, the rugged forward for the Canadiens, turned that one in on Reggett. Had trouble clearing, but now Mark Howe helps to put it along to Secord. Slides it across to Samuelson. And Samuelson drops it back deep. Secord goes in and shoulders there with the defenseman as it is rolled back around now for Caney. Kept alive by Samuelson and dumped behind for Secord. Secord centers, and Bullard couldn't reach that one. Eric Desjardins and Bullard had some interaction there as Robinson plays it back to Desjardins and then right back out. On with this is Corson. Took a hit from Wells after he tapped that one in. Kjell Samuelson for the Flyers back up to Eklund with 4:10 to go in this first period. Montreal leading in the game 1-0, and the singing and chanting resumes again here at the Spectrum, and then just that quickly stops. Back up ice with it comes Matt Naslund, has Smith on the wing and gives to him, but Bobby Smith was in early, and so offside stops the clock. We'll return to the Spectrum in Philadelphia in just a moment. The team separated by 35 points in the regular season standings, but they're even in games 1 in the playoffs. And the other series, Chicago and Calgary, were 51 points apart during the regular season, but they are even in wins, too, at 1 each. Game 3 in Chicago tomorrow.
That pretty well tells you how a team that finishes 500 can grow each round. There's a lot of growth potential, more growth potential for a a team that struggled during the regular season than a team that had an outstanding regular season. It's just common sense. There's more room to grow, and every time you win, you get a little bigger, you get a little momentum.
Yeah, I would think the confidence growth would be far more radical for a team like Chicago than one that's been on top all year like Calgary and Montreal.
Well, that's the difference. I think good teams are separated from the neck up. The good teams prepare well mentally and emotionally for every hockey game during the regular season, and that basically separates the good teams from the bad teams. Not the players physically, but how they prepare intensity-wise.
Here's a Stanley Cup special for all Flyers fans. Tonight you can order a Fighting Back video for just $19.95 and receive a Ron Hextall commemorative t-shirt absolutely free. Operators are standing by. All you have to do is call 215-465-4500 right now. It is Eklund shoveling back to Jay Wells. And Wells flipped one that went off of Chelios and back to Ludwig. Then along to Bobby Smith, and he banked one out. Along for Keane. Oh, and Wells made contact with Keane. That would have been a putty knife check. Here's Smith moving in. Murphy wedging him off as Smith shoveled one. And Wells got a skate on that one. Now it's Naslund over to Keane, and a shot found its way through sticks and skates in on Ken Reggett for a stoppage.
Montreal has a line out there now that is a pretty interesting combination. They've got speed on the left side. Mats Naslund. He's good in all corners. Bobby Smith, the big center that can maintain control pretty well. You see with his reach, he held Gord Murphy off there. And Mike Keane, number 12. He's the guy that's going to end up the trigger man on this play, right there. That surprised Ken Reggett. It had to. Gord Murphy was about to clear it, and it got through to him.
Wasn't really a steamer either, was it?
No, but Montreal's got pretty good balance like that. They've got a checker on every line. We talked about that in Game 2. They've got a real good speedster on every line. In a sense, in acquiring Keith Acton, the Flyers ended up with a little more speed, too. And when everybody's healthy, the Flyers have good balance.
Puck forced along to Mike Bullard. Moves out with Tocchet, the other forward on this line. Trailing the play now is Sutter as that shot floated wide. Kartner tried to chop it along, but it's Svoboda lined up by Tocchet and walled. Along it comes to Sutter. Sutter with a pass attempt, now throws it to the front, and it is Green. Rick Green's pass squibbed over to Chychrun. Flops one back near Propp, who set it up nicely for Kartner. Then on the wing to Propp, who fires. Oh, and a rising shot was off the glass. McPhee up the wing to Claude Lemieux. Sent one ahead for Skrudland. Skrudland's pass to Lemieux, and he couldn't direct it home. Wedged off is McPhee. Goes down on the carry of Ryan Propp, and there'll be a penalty coming up. A delayed call on the Flyers as Lemieux to McPhee, who popped one in the air. Behind the net, it's jammed along by Propp, and what a hit. Applied on Skrudland behind the net.
Boy, I don't think Skrudland saw Rick Tocchet coming, and Tocchet took advantage of it. What a crunch. But that one wasn't called. Ryan Propp is going off, though. Here it is. Watch this hit on the left of your screen. Yeah, Skrudland never saw him coming. He was looking behind the net.
Flyers penalty number 26, Ryan Propp, 2 minutes for holding.
So Montreal's power play, that to say the least has been effective in this series, is out there now.
Canadiens are 3 for 13 in the series as we get a chance to see what gives them their first opportunity of this game.
Well, yeah. Ryan Propp had the left hand of McPhee as he was trying to go around him. The Montreal Canadiens in this series have only scored one even-strength goal. And that was 1 second after Ron Sutter's penalty had expired in Game 2. So it has been their lifeblood.
And the Penguins only had 1 goal off Ken Reggett in the time he faced them, and that was a power play goal. Off the face-off puck back for a shot. Getting the tip of his stick on it was Reggett. Back it comes once more to Svoboda. Svoboda dumps it along, and Samuelson tried to ricochet it out. Sutter cleared, but Svoboda with a nice keep. Over to Walter, a shot blocked away by Howe, and Poulin able to clear it back down. Canadiens have had the last 3 shots. It's 10-4 Flyers in that department.
You know, Pat Burns surprised us in Game 2 with the people that he had on his power play, but after the game he said, I'm going to put the guys out there that are working. Some of my guys aren't. Here he's got Ryan Walter. Well, now Walter's still out there, but he had Bob Gainey. Gainey's gone off, and Corson has come on. He's not afraid to put his grinding checkers out there when his big guns are just simply not doing what he wants them to do.
Well, he got 2 power play goals in the last game that way, so why change it? Corson back to Chelios. His shot is deflected wide. Poulin stepping to it. Just chucks one over the breaking Svoboda, and so back to get it is Chris Chelios. 90 seconds to go in the period. A minute to go on the power play to Montreal. Chelios swings one across, and it's Bobby Smith bringing it in. Smith controlling is at the front of the net as Corson, watched carefully by Kartner as they work the outside to Svoboda. Then back over to Chelios. Fires one, stick save. Rebound picked up by Bobby Smith. Smith trying to pull away from Samuelson. Svoboda drive, and that deflected away by Poulin. Now it's Keane chased off by Samuelson. Corson able to play it long to Bobby Smith. Smith able to dip it back to Svoboda. Loads the gun, but passes instead to Smith. In the reach of Samuelson. Along it comes to Corson. Just 20 seconds to go on the power play now. The last 45 seconds of the period. 1-0 Canadiens. Svoboda connects back on with Smith. Now he blasts one, and that one went wide, and then hops high in the air, and it comes down to the corner. Samuelson there to get it. Shouldered off by Corson. Buck back to Svoboda. Spins it back to Chelios. Drive, and that one ricocheted off Kartner. Penalty time is up. They scoop it along to Bobby Smith. Hurries it, but Derek Smith is there and blasts it back down. Gliding back for this is Chris Chelios. There'll be an icing touch-up, and I don't know why he was so leisurely at going back at all, because the faceoff would come back and the Canadiens would have some time.
I agree 100%. Even if there were 2 or 3 seconds, you got to get back there and get the faceoff on the other end.
Well, 12 seconds remain in the period now, but it might have been 16 or 17.
See Dave Poulin, Flyers captain on the bench. If you want to talk about guts, you may have noticed Poulin actually getting in the way with his feet of a couple of those blasts, killing penalties. This guy's playing with 2 broken toes. His skates are so tight and his toes are so jammed into his skates that when he broke his toes in game 1, he didn't realize it because his feet actually get frozen from no circulation. And it wasn't until between periods when he took his skates off that it really hit him. And he is a hurting guy, but it doesn't change the way he plays.
He'll be remembered years from now for a lot of inspirational comebacks. Played in '87 with broken ribs in the 7th game against the Islanders. Came back in a crucial game against Washington with broken fingers. Now playing with a mending broken finger and broken toes. Yeah, it's a pretty bruised and battered and broken bunch there, but you wouldn't know it by the way that they've played. Canadiens are largely healthy. The only injury they have to report is wiped off the slate because Lemieux returned after missing the first game with a groin pull. He returned for game 2. Final 3 seconds of the period. Mike Bullard tries to fight it away, and now we get the stoppage of play as the period has come to a close. Only 1 goal in the period. Guy Carbonneau with his 3rd from Ryan Walter at 14:26. The shots on goal in the period for the Flyers 10, for the Montreal Canadiens 5. It is the Canadiens leading 1-0 after 1.
Gilney